Hello everyone, it's Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. I haven't prepared for this one. I saw this on the news and I wanted to respond. The officer who shot Philando Castile found not guilty on all counts. Not guilty on all counts. The operative thing is the officer that murdered Castile, because that's what we're talking about. What is the value of a life? What is the value of a life? And at which point does these quote-unquote peace officers, these cops, these pigs, these minions of a demented system that makes the determination that a black life, by virtue of being a black life, is somehow of lesser value, is somehow more threatening and more dangerous? The man gave notice. I have a gun in the car. You could hear on the audio tape, I had a gun in the car, telling him. Why the hell would he tell the officer that there's a gun in the car if he intended to use the gun in the car? That doesn't make any goddamn sense. You had a coward officer. You had a coward jury that came back and decided that cop who murdered that guy, who announced the fact, I have a weapon in the car, don't murder me because I have a weapon in the car. That's what we're talking about. That's what we're talking about. Where are all the gun nuts? Where's the NRA? Where are all these people who are all around talking about the government is on their back, that the government is trying to oppress them? If that's not what the government is doing in this particular case, the cop is a representative of state power. Are you telling me that this display of state power, this murdering an innocent man, in some way doesn't threaten your own safety? And why? Why? Explain to me. Why are you so okay? Why are you so silent when cops murder innocent people? Because that's what we're talking about. African Americans are 4 times more likely to be stopped by a cop. They had that racist stop and frisk policy in New York where the overwhelming majority, about like 80 or 90% of the people stopped, were black or Latino. And the overwhelming majority of the cases, they found squat. They found squat. They had a state-sanctioned policy of harassing people of color. That's what we're talking about. Now, we only make up 13% of the population. Are you telling me that we make up 13% of the population and the overwhelming majority of the people you're stopping are black and Latino? It's fucking amazing. In this particular case, some nervous cop goes to this person's car. They believe that this person was involved in a robbery. I don't know why they believe it. They believed it. The guy in the car says, I have a gun. Now, this dumbass cop thinks, he told me he had a gun, so he is about to use the gun that he told me he has. What makes more sense? If he had a gun and he was going to use it, he wasn't going to tell you that he had a gun. That makes no sense. That makes no sense. And then all these cowboys, every time they get on the stand, they turn into cowards. I didn't know. I was terrified. I was scared for my life. I thought he was going to kill me. He was so black. He was so black. I thought he was going to kill me. And then you have a dumbass jury that listens to that and says, well, he was pretty black. I mean, what was the officer going to do? What was the officer going to do? I mean, look how black he was. I mean, what is he going to do? What was the other guy saying? His big black arms. He was terrified when he murdered that other guy in the streets. What was it? In Ohio. One study after the next, when the Justice Department ran studies in these states, they found that there was a policy of racist behavior that targeted African Americans. Now, I'm pretty sure that a lot of people out there who say, well, oh, come on, pity the cop. Pity the cop. He's just a bad apple. He's not a goddamn bad apple. That particular story made this point, or the study made the point that this is not a bad apple. This is policy. This is how they're trained. They're trained to be cowards. They're trained to be cowards. He murdered a man in cold blood. And the state itself, the jury, the state, representative of the state, the avatar of the state, looked at this and said, clean murder. This was a clean murder. He was just a black person. Who cares? Who cares? Yes, he had a family, but certainly that family is of lesser value than that cop. Are you telling me that that person taking the responsibility of a cop, he has to take no chances at all? No chances. Meaning anybody else's life is forfeit if he gets scared. It doesn't matter how terrified he gets. Another one, Tamir Rice, 12-year-old. Murdered a fucking 12-year-old. Literally pulls into the car, gets out, and within 2 seconds, that 12-year-old is lying on the ground dead. Certainly, there's a problem with this. Where, again, are the gun nuts? Where is your integrity, gun nuts? Why are you okay with the state oppressing certain aspects of the community, but you don't, you're angry, thinking somebody is going to take your guns. Absolutely angry. Why are you angry that you think somebody's going to take your guns? Because you're scared of state power, right? You believe that without guns that you can't fight back against the state. Mind you, this makes no sense because the state has huge military equipment. They have helicopters, and I don't know what your gun is going to do against a helicopter and a tank, but whatever. I'm trying to get to the philosophical basis of what you're talking about. What you're talking about on a philosophical basis is we don't want state power oppressing us. What the fuck is this? What is this? You have situations where cops would stop people and confiscate their belongings. Why is that okay? Why is that okay? You need to put a leash on these people. Put a chip in their heads. You need to do something. But certainly you can't believe that this is perfectly okay to go along and murdering people every time some coward of a cop gets scared. Fucking kidding me? The other guy, Trayvon Martin, he beats some asshole, beats a kid or gets in a fight with a kid. They told his ass to go home. Go the fuck home. That kid has a right, every much right to be in that neighborhood as you do. He's a person. He has worth. He has value. He is an American citizen. You may not think so, but what you think is irrelevant to this particular process. He is an American citizen. Not to be tailed, not to be tracked, not to be murdered. And then the person who murdered him gets off scot-free. This is amazing. That African-American woman who fired in the air, they put her ass in prison. They put her ass in prison. They put her in a cage. You have a country full of black bodies in cages. Now, you say to yourself, well, I mean, those people did. No. Many of this stuff relates to nonviolent crimes. Many of this stuff relates to drug policies. A lot of this stuff even relates to economic policies. You put a large number of people in poverty, half of the country. Part of the people in that poverty are African Americans. Desperate poverty. I understand that the poverty of whites is bad, and whites, I get it. Your poverty is bad. It doesn't touch the level of African Americans have to deal with. Yes, there's more of you, but no, you're not as in desperate shape as they are. And putting people in desperate poverty in that way, you don't see how cops in this situation is used in place of an economic system or an honest and good economic system that deals with these things. Meaning the economics that we contend with, that we deal with, puts people in poverty. And as those people are in poverty, those people do what they need to do to make ends meet. In addition to doing what they need to do to make ends meet, you in this country tell them that cash is the highest virtue. Having things, having material possessions somehow makes you who you are, and you need to acquire as much stupid shit as you can possibly acquire. And then you put cops in those neighborhoods to police those people. Not just them, everybody else, but ultimately they seem to focus on particular neighborhoods. Now, if you go looking in a particular neighborhood for something, guess what? You're going to find it. And they do. They lock up African Americans 4 times as much for pot, even though the level that people use pot is the same. Now, if you're locking up people 4 times as much, one particular demographic, 4 times as much as you lock up another demographic, even though the amount that they use that particular drug is the same, are you telling me that that's a bad apple? How are you telling me that's a bad apple? They're intentionally looking for people of color to harass. And not just harass. If you're going to put a situation where you have a cop persistently looking to harass African Americans, guess what? You're going to get them murdering African Americans. And by the way, this is not just African Americans. This is also whites. The percentage of people that get murdered in relation to the number of us here is high. But you also are getting murdered by these terrified cops. You're also getting murdered by them. The white kid, where the cop broke through the house and shot the guy. The black guy in Walmart. He was playing with a toy gun in Walmart. The cop comes in, within a few seconds the kid is dead. Explain to me how a 12-year-old is intimidating to a cop. Explain to me this. And explain to me how that particular cop's training didn't necessarily get across to him that, hey, when you engage a particular target, maybe you need to figure out what the hell is going on before you open fire and murder a child. Philando wasn't a child. He was a grown man. As a grown man, he had a mom. He had family. He had people that loved him. He had entanglements in his particular society and society at large. He was an American citizen. He had certain rights given to him by the Constitution. Where are the constitutionalists? Where are the gun nuts? Where are the people in the NRA that said that person had the right to have a gun and that person shouldn't have been murdered by a cop for having that particular gun? Where are the people who said that the government is oppressing them and on their back? Where are all the conservatives who said that the government is on their back? How is this not an instance of the government being on their back? And where is your integrity if you don't see this being a problem? Where's your integrity? Are you telling me that this man getting murdered by the government of the United States, because that's what a cop is, he's state power. I know he's a coward, but he's still functioning at the capacity of the state. And the state looking at this case and said, clean shoot. Clean shoot. All charges dropped. Go on your way. The guy who murdered that 12-year-old, Tamir Rice, guess what? He got fired from his job. Not for murdering a 12-year-old, but for lying on his application. It was more important, or it was a bigger deal that he lied on his application than the fact that he murdered a 12-year-old child. If you want to talk about institutional racism, that's where you're getting. That's what you're seeing. You're seeing a bias built into the system itself, built into the heads of these particular people when they go out and they deal with an African American. Maybe we just need to hold signs that says, please don't murder me. Please don't murder me. Every African American, maybe we should have that in each of our cars. Please don't murder me. Because that's ultimately what we're seeing. All these guys talking about Blue Lives Matter, you can go fuck yourself. You can go fuck yourself. The premise of the idea that Black Lives Matter is, hey, Black Lives Matter. Certainly that particular officer didn't think so. Certainly that particular state didn't think so. Certainly that particular jury didn't think so. His mom thought so. I'm pretty sure he thought so. I'm pretty sure his girlfriend thought so. But they don't matter in this process, right? They don't matter. They don't matter. What matters is the sanctity of this particular cowardly cop. This is fucking amazing to me. It's fucking amazing to me. You have a particular society where you're talking about freedom and justice for all. How free is this guy? How free is this guy? Does he or does he not have a Second Amendment right to carry guns? I have to hear about this shit all the time about these guys raising up the Second Amendment as this is some great thing. Does this person as an African American have a right to carry guns? And should that person be murdered, which is what it was, murdered, carrying that gun? Explain that to me. Explain that to me. Where are all the constitutionalists? Where are you? You seem silent. You seem pretty silent. I hear crickets. I don't understand why I hear crickets. Where's the NRA? I hear crickets. Why am I hearing crickets from the NRA? Why am I hearing crickets from the survivalists? Why am I hearing crickets from the people who keep saying the government is on their back and they can't keep the government off them? Why on earth am I hearing crickets? Why am I hearing crickets? Was this person a man? Was he a man? Did this person have a right to exist? Did this person, as a human being, have value regardless of his color? Did he have value or not? Did the cop who was told, I have a gun, and yes, that cop was a dumbass because he didn't fully understand the fact that somebody telling you that they have a gun is probably not going to try to murder you. I have a gun, don't kill me. That's essentially what's taking place. I have a gun, I want to make you aware of that. Please don't murder me. Yeah, that didn't work. That didn't work. So if you're saying that even telling them that you have a gun is not enough to keep a cop from murdering you, then what? Then what? These people need to be retrained. These people need a chip in their heads. They need a leash around their necks. If they're going to behave like animals, they should be treated like animals. And they're damn sure not peace officers. And I don't want to hear shit about people, this Blue Lives Matter shit. I don't give a shit about their lives. What I care about is the people who they're murdering and injuring on a daily basis and how they get off scot-free. That's what I care about. That's what I care about. The state does a pretty decent job in protecting them. I care about us, people, the regular person going about their way, minding their own business, and getting pulled over by a cop who's skittish and terrified and scared just because of the guy's race. And then murders that guy. And murders that guy. And before you say, well, it had nothing to do with his race, bullshit. 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 I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. There's a drastic difference between how cops interact with African Americans and cops interact with whites. Full stop. It's been that way for God knows how long. The only difference between now and then is videotape. Cell phones. It's been recorded. There's no difference. There's no difference. The difference is the technology that can expose it. That's the only difference. This is not that amazing. What's amazing about it is that it went to trial in the first place. And that cop would have came out and said, well, he reached for his gun. And that's exactly what he said. He reached for his gun. Well, he was lying because nobody tells you they have a gun and didn't reach for the gun. That makes no fucking sense. But the jury looked at it and said, he probably was terrified. He was scared. I mean, look how black the guy is. Look how black the guy is. What would I have done in that situation? I would have probably murdered him too. I wouldn't have had a choice but to murder him. Those big black arms. It's fucking infuriating. This is infuriating. When I hear people talk about race relations in a particular country, and I hear people saying, oh, those people are making hay out of stuff. Murder is not making hay out of stuff. And if you honestly believe that a white person in this exact situation would have ended up dead, you're fucking ridiculous. I'm sorry, you're fucking ridiculous. I am one of those people who don't like to add race into the mix of situations unless it is perfectly clear that that was a part of it. Because I don't like this idea of using the argument until the argument fits. I think it diminishes the argument of saying XYZ is race, which is why I was like, yeah, Bill Maher's wasn't racist. I was adamant about it. Not because I was protecting Bill Maher, because I was protecting the integrity of the word. There's a difference in those things. I don't give a shit about Bill Maher. I do give a shit about when that word is used, that it has the force necessary. I don't want it diluted by people just using it willy-nilly and putting adjectives to it to make it do something that it's not designed to do. This fucker murdered somebody. And they looked at the evidence and they looked at what was taking place and they said, just like they said in hundreds of other cases, clean shoot. Clean shoot. That Negro reached for his gun. He didn't have a choice but to murder him. It's fucking amazing. It's fucking amazing. The land of the free and the home of the brave, my ass. Land of the free and home of the brave, my ass. You have 5% of the world's population with 25% of the world's population at prisons. China has 3 times more people than we do. And we have more people in our prisons. In cages. Human beings. In cages. In Iran, it was illegal to wear earrings. Americans will laugh at that. And yet, it's illegal for you to smoke a plant. And a cop would murder you, beat you, or put you in prison into a cage for smoking a goddamn plant. Think of the ridiculousness of the situation. Think of the ridiculousness of this. That person is making a personal choice. They're trying to make this argument that pot, cocaine, heroin, all these things are exactly the same. Nobody in their right mind believes that. And yet, by law, that's the policy. And because of that policy, they could take a person who is a man, a human being, and put that human being in a cage. It's fucking amazing. They just murdered a guy and they let a guy get off on murder. That's what just took place. That's what just took place. I don't even know how to press a spin in it because I don't look at mainstream news. However they're spinning it, it needs to be extraordinarily clear that this cop, fuck is his name? Geronimo Yanez. Geronimo, good job. Good job, Geronimo. You're a murderer. You're a murderer. I hope you're spit on. Every time somebody sees you, when you get up in the morning, I hope somebody spit on you. When you go and get your coffee, I hope somebody spit in it. When you go and get lunch, I hope somebody spit in it. I hope your life, I hope you get hit by a fucking bus. You murdered somebody. You murdered somebody in cold blood just because you were a coward. You shouldn't be on the goddamn job if you're this much of a coward. This is murder. This is murder. Don't call it anything else. Don't tell me about no goddamn Blue Lives Matter when they can't represent or respect life. When they can't respect life. If they can't respect life, don't tell me about Blue Lives Matter. I don't want to hear about that shit. That's a pejorative to make fun of people who saying, hey, my life matters. His life, Philando, his life mattered. His life mattered, clearly. Not to Geronimo, but to his family, to other people in the African American community. He had worth. He had value. And you murdered him in a traffic stop. In the same way they murdered a 12-year-old. Just playing. Same way they murdered another guy in Walmart. Just playing. And the same way they murdered that homeless guy who was naked. There was no way he had a gun. He was fucking naked. What was he hiding in his ass? Murdered him too. And the same way the cop tells the guy, hey, give me your license. He reaches for his license. The cop shoots him. Well, I thought you were reaching for a gun. You told me to get my goddamn license. Yeah, I thought you were reaching for a gun. At least they fired him. This is infuriating. This is infuriating. I imagine at this point Obama would come out and give a speech about something that doesn't matter and not do anything about it. That's what would take place. So people who are saying, well, I mean, Obama wouldn't have did a goddamn thing. He would have given a speech. He can keep the speech. I don't care about his speeches. I don't care about his speeches. I care about the life that was just taken. That's what I care about. That's what I care about. I care about that officer having a miserable existence for the rest of his days. That's what I care about. If you're going to take a life and you're going to get off and you're going to use "I was terrified and I was a pussy" as your defense, all of them use the same defense. I was a pussy. I don't understand how being a pussy is a defense to anything. And yet, if you're a cop, that's the go-to. I was a pussy. Let me off. I was a pussy. Please, let me off. I was a pussy. I was terrified. I was scared. I was scared. I was a pussy. I'm sorry. This is aggravating. It's fucking infuriating. It's absolutely infuriating. Again, where are all the gun nuts and where are all these constitutionalists who decry the government on their backs? The government is on our back. The government is keeping us down. We need to fight state power. The government is going to take over. They're going to have us in these little hobbit homes. The UN is going to invade. We need to have our guns to fight back against the government. You understand that this is the government, right? You understand that this is the government. Crickets. Crickets, yes. I'm saying you don't have integrity. Crickets. All those organizations that advocate for guns, that advocate for this thing of resistance against state power. Yes, I'm saying you guys are hypocrites. I'm saying you don't have any goddamn integrity. If his life isn't worth you bitching about it, if his life, understand, he had a gun. He told the cop he had a gun. At which point does having possession of a gun warrant murder? That's your question. And if him having a gun warrants murder, then all of you gun nuts are in prize. But I think you know the difference. All of you gun nuts are not in prize. All of you gun nuts of a particular race are in prize. And that's the catch. You don't give a shit about him. You don't give a shit about anybody with this color who has a gun and gets murdered. You only give a shit about yourself. And your organization is usually there to protect purely people who look like you, not people who look like him. If you had any integrity at all, you would be out there marching and bitching and complaining in the same way you march and bitch and complain with these figments of your imagination about the government trying to take over. But I won't stay up for that because the shit is not going to happen. Alright guys, if you enjoy the content, feel free to share, write, subscribe, blah 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 blah. Thanks.